What's going on?
Whoops, sorry about that. Got a little ahead of myself there. Welcome to How Hard Could It Be, where I make a YouTube video and then talk about some of my challenges in the process. October brings with it the spookiest day of the year, Halloween. For this season, I want to talk about possibly my favorite spooky game, The Suffering. It's a game of multiple layers, and I'd like to talk about some of them, if you'll allow me to take some of your time away.
T, listen to me. You gotta get out of there. That island is more than just a prison, it's so much worse. It brings out the worst in everyone. Get out of there, T. Run! Run as fast as you can!
Let's start on the first layer of the game, the gameplay itself. This is a very mechanically sound game. A horror game through and through, but one that allows the player a smooth experience. Unlike games that completely take away your powers, such as Amnesia or Outlast, turning you into little more than a fleeing visitor, this game allows you to take control and inflict violence on the things that would do so towards you. It gets even better than that, however, as you're given plenty of weapons, ammunition, health, and other resources. It's neither janky nor stingy. It's distinctly not survival horror, and that's one thing I truly love about it. It was a great experience during my time with it back in the day, and even replaying it now, I had an enjoyable time. Is it Warframe or Call of Duty? No, but it's a lot better than something like Resident Evil, and it still holds itself up. It was an important part of the game from conception.
Are you ready for a history lesson talk? Over the ages, Carnate Island has been host to nearly every form of human atrocity. These horrors are not unique to this place. Yes, surely all over the planet, humans have been killing humans all the way back to Cain and Abel. But Carnate brings out the killer in us all. What about your killer talk? Time to let him out to play, yes?
Jesus.
Of course, I wouldn't be talking about this game at all if not for the other layers of the game. Good mechanics make a game playable, but they don't make it truly great. The Suffering crams you into claustrophobic environments, and even the ones that aren't cramped can leave you looking over your shoulder. Carnate Island offers many settings for the character to explore. Of course, the prison takes center stage, a focal point of horror with both inmates and correctional officers, and even the warden himself capable of horrifying violence. Does the island cause this effect, or is it their own minds that put them on the path? Maybe it's a little bit of both. Of course, that's not the only thing this island features. The bowels of the prison contain remnants of a military fort, host to its own atrocities. A quarry was dug to supply the island with building materials. Unfortunately, it also supplied the island with prisoners buried alive, as well as COs hanged and skinned. An old asylum sits alone on the island, home to a crazed, ghostly doctor brought to life via ancient projectors. Even the formerly peaceful village that is home to the families of the officers isn't spared the horrors of Carnate Island. There's more, of course. Carnate Island acts as almost a magnet for human violence and depravity, almost as if it feeds on the hate, rage, and sorrow on its surface. Everywhere you go, there's another sight to unsettle you.
You can't catch me! You can never catch me! Daddy, help me, Daddy.
Chief among these sights are the Malefactors, each one gruesome in its own way, and each one potentially deadly to you and those around you. These creatures, these abominations, will have you scouring the floors, walls, and even the ceilings. Mainliners can crawl their way out of any puddle you find. Turn your back to a dribble of blood and you may find a syringe of poison in your spine. But make sure to watch the ceilings as well. If you don't, you may find yourself yanked upwards by a nooseman. Festers hold within their bulletproof bodies swarms of explosive rats. Burrowers will spring from the ground and flail at you with their chains. Marksmen will spring forth and take aim. A turret of 4 rifles will shoot you if they find you within their sights. Inferno will set ablaze the environment to trap you. And lastly, Slayers, stomping around on their bladed limbs, using all 4 of them to climb the ceilings and walls. They attack from all angles, and they are by far the most common malefactor on the island. Of course, each one is deeper than just the way they attack and move. They're all manifestations of the various deaths on the island.
This prison is my command! I am God here! You will follow my orders!
The Slayer, a personification of decapitations in various forms of knives and shivs over the years. Perhaps the reason they are so agile is that this form of crime is so ever-present, especially within prison walls, as well as being one of the things correctional officers have to fight the most. Mainliners, they come pre-filled with the various solutions used for lethal injections. The Noosemen and Burrowers are linked together. The Burrowers represent those buried alive, especially those lost within the quarry accident, left to die rather than be saved. The Noosemen, on the other hand, while initial sightings may think they're just those lost below the gallows, they're more specifically a group of correctional officers hanged and skinned by prisoners after that event. The great hulking marksmen are a manifestation of firing squads, both victims and executioners, with their blindfolded eyes and a massive turret with several rifles embedded within. Vesters are those responsible for leaving a ship's hold of slaves to be eaten alive by rats after the ship was cast ashore. Last, but not least, the Inferna, the spirits of a trio of girls responsible for 11 people executed through witch trials. They were all burned at the stake, unlike those in Salem.
I can't. No, I don't want to see it. No! Daddy, no!
The main characters other than Torque are pretty interesting in the story as well, offering yet another layer. Torque is haunted by many ghosts during his escape from Carnate Island, 3 of which are from the island itself.
Death is our stock and trade here at Abbott, the final solution. I am one of the few who will admit that. First it giveth, and it taketh away.
I've been here a long time. I don't understand much about this place, but I know no being here ain't no coincidence.
Well, 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 look what we have here. How long I have been waiting to encounter such a fascinating specimen. My understanding is you've had periodic blackouts since, when was it? Ah, yes, early adolescence. Ever wonder what happens during those blackouts? Would you say you have visions of bloodshed? Yes, surely there is bloodshed.
Let's take a moment to visit Hermes, Horace, and Dr. Killjoy. First, Hermes T. Height is perhaps the most malicious of all the creatures to be found on Carnate Island. There is no passivity, no instinct in Hermes, only a pure sadistic desire to end the lives of others. While it may seem as though many of the creatures on Carnate only act on instinct, killing anything that moves, even each other, Hermes is seen directly going after people to kill, whether they're escaping, hiding, or brought into the gas chamber by he himself. He delighted in his job as an executioner. He sought it out, excelled in it, and in the end, whether it was by the island's influence or merely his own twisted curiosity, he put himself in the chamber and breathed deep. He in turn delights in Torque's malevolence as well.
You've seen death, right? I read about your life, you sick bastard. Put me to shame. I never got to snuff a woman. But did you really do it? Because we get innocent guys.
Horace, on the other hand, was a man who maybe didn't even commit the first crime he was sentenced for. The island, however, has ways of breaking the minds of the weak-willed, the easily influenced, or those who are already treading along dark paths. In the end, Horace took the life of his dearly beloved. Though he only wanted her to be safe, the island perverted that desire into something darker, and he killed her during a conjugal visit. Perhaps the last positive moment in his existence was corrupted by Carnate Island. He never kills on purpose after becoming a ghost. He only takes one life during the story, and that is of the very first correctional officer you meet after breaking out. Even then, it's an accident. Collateral damage to the island's torture of his soul.
God damn! What the hell was that? I gotta check it out. Stay here!
Make it stop!
Now he hopes that you won't fall into the same darkness that he did.
I always looked at their bodies when I was done.
Finally, we meet Dr. Killjoy, a well-spoken gentleman with a penchant for mad science and murder. He worked in the asylum on Carnate Island in the early 1900s and disappeared seemingly for no reason. Perhaps he was drawn into the film itself, imprinted on it. He's a ghost in the machine, in several machines, showing up through projectors and occasionally on TVs. He's got a flair for the dramatic, and has no qualms with killing.
It may be incumbent upon the practitioner to take matters into his own hands, using whatever sharp-bladed objects he may have on his person. Lacerations to the body at strategic locations may put the patient into a state of shock, making him far more pliable, or at the very least, causing him to bleed to death, thus achieving the desired end. And who are we kidding? We're not really trying to be humane anyway. Class dismissed.
He seems to genuinely want to help Torque, but for what reason is unknown. Maybe he just likes a good challenge. He seems to take a somewhat neutral approach to Torque's mental illness, neither inspiring you to violence, but not suggesting you shy away from it either.
Something I shall thoroughly enjoy, and I trust so shall you. I am not certain we have been formally introduced. Torque, isn't it? My name is Killjoy, Dr. Killjoy, and I will be your alienist this fine evening. Welcome to the Carnate Institution for the tragically troubled, the impossibly insane, and the diabolic...
Torque himself is haunted by his wife and children. They take turns taunting him with his various failures as a parent and husband, and his inability to protect them.
Dad was never there. The bad man caught us.
I just wanted to be with my children. This was your life, T. How did you let it get away?
Sometimes it's not all negative. Even the worst relationships can have positive moments.
When I saw you in that old broken gazebo, you were so good looking. I thought you were all mature. How old did you think I was? I felt so young with you. All my girlfriends were so jealous. We were so good together. For a while. Even when I left, I still loved you, T. But sometimes, I think you only brought me suffering.
These flashes of the past are often quite unsettling, mixing the innocence of childhood and the horrors of the malefactors, the love of his wife and the horror of the island. They come abruptly with no warning, no hints at their existence, surprising Torque and of course the player as well.
Come on, I learned my lesson. You never were my dad. Not really.
These hallucinations are my favorite part of the game. They go a long way into putting me at unease. Sure, they may be jump scares intended to startle you, but they work well. They work because it's not just the startle, it's the imagery, the mixture of tones, the unsettling nature of the encounters. They come in a flash and then they're gone. Each one has a chance to leave behind something, though. Some of them come with enemies, manifested as if by the hallucination itself. It's not the gameplay, not even the setting that takes away my comfort. It's the sounds and visuals of these hallucinations that have gotten me the most. Are they hallucinations, though? What is and isn't one? Could all of this, the monsters, the correctional officers off their rockers, the hallucinations and the ghosts be figments of Torque's imagination? Or maybe it's all real, every moment, every flash of violence, every supposed vision may be a tangible manifestation from the island. Does Torque actually transform into a massive beast, or is he simply feeding into his own adrenaline, using the simple shiv to tear creatures and people apart? In this setting, it's hard to say what is real. Perhaps Hermes and Horus and Killjoy are all actual people, pushing him into acting certain ways. Hermes may still be alive, taunting Torque into violence so that he can have the satisfaction of putting him down. Horus may actually be a previously innocent man, pushed to violence due to the isolation of prison, and is telling Torque not to let it get to him. Killjoy may be an actual doctor at the prison who is only trying to help reform Torque through clinical and maybe even chemical means. Why else is this zombium just laying around all over the place? It sounds like some sort of antipsychotic medication. Maybe it's supposed to dull the senses so much you feel like a zombie. Maybe all of the quote-unquote damage Torque takes is only mental damage, and when Torque takes too much, he goes irreversibly insane.
It is so difficult to tame the brain. Sometimes it needs a little jolt to behave.
If it is all real, what does that make Torque? Is he an arbiter of reality itself? A focus for the island's malefactors? Is he a representation for the violence that takes place in and around and because of prisons? Is he a force for good, for evil, or for neutrality? I suppose that last part is up to the player and their actions. All of it is, really. Audience interpretation is a hell of a drug. The layers of this game make it an interesting experience. It very much is what you make of it. Maybe to one person it's just a pretty fun game with decent mechanics, neat enemies, and a spooky vibe. To someone else it might be a dive into the psychology of the mentally broken. To another it is a commentary on prison violence and the factors that lead to it. It can be all of those things at once. Even the lead developer shares the sentiment that audience interpretation is totally valid. That's why the 7th and last layer is what you get from the game. Give it a try and see what you can pull from it.
At last, you have made it to the climax of this fine performance. Let me introduce our newest player. This fascinating specimen is a creature of purest strength and rage, whose presence here must prove quite a conundrum to you. His resemblance to these other soulless beasts cannot be denied, but he is altogether harder to truly understand. But with the capabilities of my experimental device, I can bring about a rebirth of the spirit, a reawakening of the soul, and thus we can shed light on this most unique situation. Why not come inside, and I shall show you?
Can I take a moment to talk about old games? I bought The Suffering on GOG for $10, and this game in particular has presented some unique challenges. It crashes like, well, several tasteless jokes that I can think of off the top of my head. It doesn't matter which computer I play it on either. It's usually all well and good right up until you get to the showers. There's another tasteless joke there to be made, but I'm sure you can use your imagination for that one too. The worst part of that is when it does so, I lose my recording for that segment as well, because I have to hard reset the computer to get past it. So research is required, a quick googly-doo, and progress. Seems like there's some extra files that need to be deleted, so I gave that a go. It stopped crashing for the most part. Some of the sound effects are pretty inconsistent though. It's not a huge deal and honestly makes it more seldom to play in a lot of ways. Lets the malefactor sneak up on me a bit more. On top of that, I did an interview for this. It'll be uploaded sometime soon. Richard Rouse lent me some of his free time for an interview and I got to pick his brain a little about the game. It was honestly a really fantastic experience and was a high I rode for a few weeks afterwards. I never expected to get a chance like that, but getting it was rewarding all on its own, YouTube video or no, so you can look forward to that. One of the hardest parts of this video was what angle to take. I didn't want to just do a standard video review. I mean, I'm pretty sure that would be pretty easy to do, but I'm not into this for easy. Wrapping my head around what I wanted to do was really difficult. I probably poisoned myself with too many ideas and too much information. Eventually I landed on the layers of fear. Hopefully, I'll have put something together that's fairly interesting. With all of that said,
Sometimes it is the body that threatens the safety of the mind. Sometimes it must be removed.
have a happy Halloween weekend. Escape from prison, explore an island, get haunted by a handful of ghosts, shoot a bunch of twisted creatures, and then have one of 3 endings that also decide what you did a few weeks ago.
You saw the devil. He's close. Don't let him get you.